Hello viewers, welcome to Cosmo Reviews. In this video, we are continuing to review the TV series of Alias Season 3. Alias third season consists of 22 episodes and aired from September 28, 2003. Before we get into the plot, let's recap the last seasons of Alias. In the last season of Alias, where Sydney, Vaughn and the team of the CIA railed SD6, and right after that, Sydney and Vaughn start their relationship. Arvin started the Phase 2 plan right after the end of the alliances. He called Sydney and warned her not to get in his way. Francie was murdered by her double-danger, Alison Dorrance. Her true identity was discovered by Sydney and the two engaged in a fierce fistfight around the house. Sydney aimed the guns at Alison and shot her, then she collapsed from exhaustion. Sydney finds herself woken up in Hong Kong. Vaughn arrives and appears out of the shot and tells her that she has been missing almost 2 years. Now we have done the recap for the last seasons. Let's dive into the main plot for the third seasons. As usual, this video contains spoilers for the series' major plot of the third season of Alias. If you haven't finished watching the series or prefer to avoid spoilers, it is recommended to watch with cautions. Alright, let's begin. Season 3 starts with Sydney waking up on the street in Hong Kong. She then contacts the CIA and is directed to a safe house. Upon waiting, she discovers a scar on her abs. She has no memory of how she got the scar. Then Vaughn came in contact with her. He tells Sydney that she has been gone for 2 years after the fight with Alison in her apartment. Will survived the apartment fire, he says, but she died and her remains were identified. Vaughn married and now is a teacher, but the CIA sent him to take her back. Sydney thinks that it is a setup. She attacked Vaughn and escaped the safe house. She fights 2 CIA agents standing ground and Vaughn finally brings her down with a dot. She wakes up in the Stanford Naval Hospitals. Dixon is there. He is now the director of their divisions. Dixon reveals to Sydney that Vaughn is telling the truth and Judd has been in the isolatorium for a year, courtesy of NSC Senior Director Robert Lindsay. When Sydney returns to the CIA, she is put on a mission under Lindsay's adamant. The mission is where Sydney retrieves a chip from the Russian hitman Grody Velkov. She returns to Lindsay, threatening to destroy the chips unless he releases her father. He acquiesces. Judd returns to the CIA and takes Sydney to a storeroom. He shows her a videotape of a Russian diplomat named Andrei Lazary. On the monitor, a blonde Sydney stabs the man in the neck, killing him. Sydney is stunned as she doesn't remember that she killed Lazary and she doesn't have the memory of her past 2 years. The following day, Sydney visits Vaughn, telling him that she could cope with his return to the agency. Vaughn says when she thought Sydney was dead during the last 2 years, he lost control and started drinking. He was deeply in love with her but didn't regret moving on with his life by marrying another woman. In the office, Dixon introduced Sydney to the woman whom he was speaking, Lawrence Reed, the new NSC liaison who will be investigating Lazary murder. She is also Vaughn's wife.
If there's anything I can do to help. You should know, in addition to being the new NSC liaison, I'm also Michael Vaughn's wife. Hi.
Meanwhile, Jack Bright, a computer expert to corrupt the image of the Lazary murder, Jack's given the virus which he must upload to the terminal with the administrative privilege. He installed the files. The Covenant is after a device that can interface with Russians' launch control, giving them access to their nuclear arsenal. It has been revealed that Alison Dorrance is alive. The Covenant found Alison and Sydney after their fight. Alison recovered in 6 months and has been working for them since. Sydney forces Sloan to meet with Sock and Alison in plot and get them to divulge the locations of the device. Using his cover as a double agent, Sloan coaxed Allison into admitting the device is in the vault in Sofia, Bulgaria. Sydney makes Sloan ask about her past. Allison says the Covenant ordered her not to kill Sydney because they want to retrieve something from her memory. This made Sydney want to undergo CIA memory retrieval, which Jack vehemently opposed. Before the missions, Dixon sent Vaughn and Sydney to Sofia. He privately admits to Sydney that he wants Allison dead because she murdered his wife. Using a tracking device, Sydney and Vaughn find Allison in abandoned buildings in Sofia and give a chase. Allison corners Sydney and says that Sydney has discovered a formula for medications in the Rambaldi journal, which is ultimately used to heal Allison's wound. Sydney grabs Allison's gun and shoots. She's alive. Battery. They find the device in her body. Sock pays a visit to Lawrence. He is forced to confess the identity of Lazare's murderer. He gave her the dossier, which includes pictures of Lazare and Julian Thorne. Sock identified Julia as Sydney. Vaughn and Lawrence argue about keeping Sydney's secret. Lawrence admits that she already reported Sydney. Vaughn then tells Sydney everything and arranges for her to fly to Rome and pick up a new passport. Sydney enters her apartment in Rome. Through the window, she sees a figures she dreamed of. She searched for the medicines cabinets and find bottles of prescribed to Julian Thorne. The Italian police barge in and arrest Sydney. Now in Lindsay custody, Sydney is imprisoned and tortured at the Camper Williams, a secret NSC detention facility. Lindsay pressures Lawrence, who unaware of Sydney tortures, to write a fair report of their treatment of Sydney. Lindsay will threaten Sydney with a memory retrieval surgery to force her to decode a message found under her desk in Rome. Lindsay informs her that she will be undergo a neural simulation surgery. Jack, Vaughn, and the team speed into facility. The team find her just in time and gun a battle. Unsure, they take Sydney to a chopper where Sloan awaits. Sloan also suggests Sydney's contact a Yale researcher named Dr. Edward, who's invent a non-invasive techniques to treating a long-term amnesia. The group visit Dr. Edward's lab and find him and his assistant Kaya to be extremely eccentric. Dr. Edwards administers a drug and Sydney enters to a dream state. It is a real mix of the past and present. She remembers being picked up by a three-hood man after her fight with Allison. They inject her with something. She regressed to childhood. She cut a birthday cake, which became a silver hand, and sees the face of the strange man. Back to the hood man, she follows as they take her linked body to room 47. Lawrence guides her away, saying, "You know better," then try to strangle her and canning plastic. In the real world, Dr. Edward revives Sydney as she goes into a cardiac arrest. When she awakes, she kisses Vaughn passionately, believing herself is still in the dream. Sydney is dreaming again. She is in a car called a St. Aidan with Dixon. She takes the box that contains a silver hand and walks into the apartment. Wise and Marshals are there gambling. She enters to the hanging plastic. Lawrence tells her to leave. Sydney chokes Lawrence, who becomes Sydney doppelganger. They struggle. The double says to trust Lazare. Sydney shoots and kills the doubles and enters the room 47. She saw Will in her old apartment and there was a serious box that says St. Aidan's. Jack advised Sydney to contact Will, who is in the witness protection program. Sydney visits Will in Wisconsin. Suspicious, he pulls a gun, but he proves her identity, saying that he is her oldest friend and that she loved him. Finally, he believes her and they hug. Sydney tells Will that Alison Dorrance is alive and working for the Covenant. He remembers that St. Aidan's was code name for an old agency contact. He arranged to meet St. Aidan's in Warsaw. Meanwhile, Sock attacked Dr. Edwards at his lab and hooked him up with a morphine drip. Before he overdosed, Dr. Edward revealed that Sydney was going to contact Will at St. Aidan's to meet Will. It's Lazare. Sock appears and shoots Lazare with a tranquilizer. A gun battle unsure, Sydney and Will escape. Will and Sydney check into a glass hotel, posing as a rock star. Sydney taps into the security system through the on-screen checkout and finds a location of a safe deposit box belongs to Julia Thorne. After disabling the security camera, she breaks into the box, but Sock steals the object from under her nose. Allison attacks Will with a knife while Sydney chases after Sock. In the close combat, Will plots the knife into Allison's, killing her. Sydney knocks out Sock and steals the object. Sydney contacts Sloan and prepares for the trip on the San Pedro dock. A team posing as a Covenant take the Rambaldi device in exchange for Sydney. The sniper fires and kills Lindsay. At the CIA, Vaughn gives Sydney the cold shoulder as Jack oversees Marshall examining the box. It contains human tissues and Milo Rambaldi names is attached in the site. Agents from Departments of Special Research take possession of Rambaldi cube before Marshall can finish his analysis of the tissues contained inside. Later, Sydney is tankerized and taken aboard a jet where she sees Kendall, who reveals he's not FBI but Special Research. The Covenant has ambushed his team and now has the cube. He says he's always known what happens to Sydney's missing 2 years but kept it silent because she asked him to. 9 months after she was buried, he says Sydney called him from Rome, where she had escaped from the Covenant. She told him that she saw her funeral paralyzed by neurotoxins from the back of a van. Her torturer, Oleg Medarich, has injected Sydney DNA into the teeth of the corpse using a false identification. She was taken to St. Petersburg, where she was called Julian Horn, and brainwashed. She killed a Covenant prisoner to prove her readiness. Sydney is shocked at this tale, but Kendall says her Project Christmas training prevented her from being turned. She killed the man who was doomed anyway to project herself and deceive the Covenant. She then contacted Kendall, who advised her to continue as Julian Todd to gather info. Sydney recalls the pains when she observed Vaughn and Lawrence but stay away for the safety's sake. Sydney portrayed Julia when partnered with Simon Walker to search for the cube. She discovered Lazare, an expert close to uncovering the artifact. Although the Covenant want Julia to kill Lazare once he found the cube, Kendall ordered her to cut a deal with him to work together, so she faked his death at her hand. Back at the jet, Kendall says he believes Sydney is Rambaldi's chosen one and that the Covenants want both her and the cube to fulfill the prophecy. Julia and Lazare find and retrieve the cube in the cave of Namibia. She have to amputate Lazare's hand when a closing valve door crushes it. She never delivered the cube to Kendall, however, he instead got a disc that shows Sydney revealing that she was hiding the cube and having her memory erased so it could never be found. She tells Kendall never to tell her what she been through. Kendall says he respects her wishes, but 4 months after Hong Kong, she went straight to the cube. Why, he wondered. She remembered the package of Sloan gift to her, the code and the key to the Rome apartment, which led her to Lazare and the cube. It was all a trick. Sydney calls Marshall, who has secretly put a tracking device on the cube. Meanwhile, Sock observed a series of test cube fertilizations. Later, Sock made a phone call ordering his father to be killed. As Lazare is transported to a hospital, he asks Sydney if he knows about the passenger. He then assassinated by a sniper. Lauren picked up her gun, then flee the scene. It is revealed that Lawrence is secretly working for the Covenant. At the restaurant, Vaughn tells Lawrence that he wants to separate. Lawrence says it is all about Sydney and storms off, straight to Sock, who tells her to kill her father, which would compel Vaughn to return to her out of compassion. Meanwhile, a suspicious Jack prints out Lawrence's phone record visiting Senator George Reed. Jack meets his wife, Olivia, then he reveals to the senator the paper of the trail leading to his Lawrence. Reed is incensed and denounces his daughter's involvement. Lawrence realizes her computer had been accessed by Jack. She calls Sock, who again advised her to kill her father and then frame Jack. Lawrence visits her father, who's now convinced of Lawrence's guilt. He suggests that he can help her to get out of it and they could start over to patch their relationship. Olivia's walk in, take the guns from Lawrence and shoot him. She say, Sock say you might back out. During investigations, Olivia tells Jack that before killing himself, George had grown out thought about asking Lawrence to do things that he later regret. He mentions the covenants, she says. Dixon explains to the teams that a computer worm originating in Berlin has targeted hospitals, laboratories, and universities. They believe it is a covenant attack, a persecutor to Rambaldi bioweapons. Sydney and Vaughn travel to Berlin Golf Club to find a Cupid, a hacker swarm as Cypher, and learn how to stop the worm. Suck learned from Lawrence that CIA has discovered Cypher. Bomani expressed the doubt about Lawrence's work. Lawrence tells Vaughn that while he is in Berlin, he will go to England to meet her mother and scattered her father's ashes to the Vaughn. In Berlin, Sydney locates Cypher with PDA of sniffling pair of glasses given to her by Marshall. Before he talks, however, he's shot. Sydney thinks that she sees Lawrence in distance. Cypher's last act is to give Vaughn a small drive containing the file with the worm source code. Lawrence tells Sock that she has to corrupt the file before the CIA make a copy, before Bomani knows that she failed. Sloan tells Jack that 2 years ago, Senator Reed recruited him to work for the Trust, an organization within US government interested in Rambaldi, in return for a pardon. He wants Jack to prove that this group exists. At CIA safe house in Berlin, Sydney tells Vaughn that she saw Lawrence. Vaughn reacts angrily. Lawrence shows up looking to cry on Vaughn's shoulder. He noticed that he wearing an antique ring. She claimed that it is Aaron. Sydney calls Mrs. Reed to check on Lawrence's alibi. Her story holds as Vaughn uploads Cypher data to Marshall. Lawrence touches the rings to the drive. Later, Marshall tells them that flash drive memory was wiped. He suggests that it was purposely exposed to an electromagnetic pulse. However, he is able to partially construct the source code and determines that its real purpose was to gather information for the covenant. Vaughn asks Lawrence what she did while he was gone. She just gave him a kiss. Vaughn checked her belongings while she is in the bath. After the first button of trunk, he finds a golf wig, a passport, and a gun. Vaughn admits to Sydney and Jack that Lawrence is a mole. Jack says he should play alone, so when Lawrence asks Vaughn to come to counseling, he agreed. In LA, Jed reveals to Sydney that Sloan had an affair with Irina. Sydney confronts Sloan at the prison cell. He says that he would never knew he had a daughter with Irina until he reaches the Nepal Montessori. Now he wants to protect her from the covenant. He asks Sydney to convince Jed not to hide the evidence that will exonerate him. Jed later says he hid nothing. Only the CIA Project Black Holes had the code keys that can read the restorations. Jed set a trap. He leaks to Lawrence that Marshall has the restorations that will begin to decoding it with the code key. He copies his thumbprint using it to access the image processing lab to duplicate the code key, which in fact is a fake. Sydney and Vaughn are shocked to find Lawrence passing the fake to her mother Olivia. They overheard Olivia says the restorations is at Rome in Richmond. During the counseling sessions, Dr. Bennett slightly suggests that Vaughn take a trip with Lawrence in Richmond. Once there, Vaughn hides a sensor that Marshall uses to find a hidden safe. Sydney informs him and directs him to it while Lawrence and Olivia are outside. He scans and transmits the document with a watch. Vaughn finished just before Lawrence enters. Sydney disconnects her comm as they fool around. Sloan reveals that he found a Rambaldi text that contained a formula of an elixir that will allow the passenger to channel a message from Rambaldi. Sloan had assembled the elixir which have no effect. Sloan explained that if the Covenants find her, it will expose her to a massive dose of elixir, thus killing her. He swears he just wants to protect his child. When Sydney asks how to find her, he smashed the hourglass, revealing a glowing rainbow. Dixon has Weiss tell Lawrence and advance Vaughn to continue as her devoted husbands to gather information. Lawrence, however, soon loses Weiss. Sock kidnaps and tortures Vaughn, trying to get the passengers' locations. Lawrence appears and, apparently disturbed by Vaughn's conditions, help him escape. Vaughn fled a trucker and uses his cell phone to call Dixon. Vaughn is rightfully suspicious The truck crashes after the trucker attacked him. Sock and Lawrence grab Vaughn again, but Marshall witnessed it on the surveillance tape. They begin to administer the dreading infernal particle serums on Vaughn when Sock received a mysterious phone call revealing the locations. Lawrence increased the dosage in order to kill Vaughn, and they leave, Weiss using Marshall's info to find Vaughn barely alive. At the labor camp in Chechnya, under the alias of Talia Kachlov, the woman waits and she and Sydney battle their way out. She tells Sydney that her name is Nadia and she is with the said Argentine intelligence. Sydney reveals that they are sisters. They meet up with Jack and Sloan and retreat to a safe house. Nadia recognizes Sloan, who tells her that he changed because he didn't want to meet his daughter and have her despise him. Sock and Lawrence break into the safe house. During the gun battle, Sloan and Nadia disappear. Jack and Sydney realize that Sloan tips the Covenants to give himself the opportunity to escape with Nadia. They can't relocate her by her brainwaves. Sloan takes the notes that an entranced Nadia has written and pins them to a boat where they form some kind of diagram. With Sloan guard down, Nadia stabs him with a hedonite mix and destroys the robotic Exela her. But he subdued her. He caused a contact to deliver more border to exchange for 5 million. The contact then calls Sock. Sydney and Vaughn arrive at the bunker only to find the Ransik and the Exela missing. Vaughn begins to retrieve and upload any available data to Marshall. They find a video files revealing that Nadia Santos as a young girl recording message while under the trance. Russian guards led by Katya Derevko surprise them. She turns on the guards, however, antagonize them. She reveals herself to be Sydney's aunt, then order them to wear the guard uniform. They run barrel through the checkpoints and escape. Nadia escaped the CIA safe house to meet with Sloan, who tells her the spare may be compromised because of the Covenants has solved the equations. She says that she purposely altered the equations. The Covenant is looking at the wrong place. She and Sloan venture off together to find the spare. Sydney and Lawrence fight. Lawrence says to Sydney still doesn't know the truth about her life. Lawrence is about to finish Sydney off when Vaughn shoots Lawrence dead. Before she dies, Lawrence tells Sydney the truth is in the box 1062 in the band of Wingebird. Sydney and Vaughn kiss.
Let her go.
Put the gun down.
Do it now.
Put the gun down! If you love her, you'll put the gun down. You really are a Boy Scout. What are you doing? How did you get here?
I came for you.
One, 0, 6, 2.
What was that?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Season 3 ends with Sydney's go to Winterberg to open the safe deposit box to find the top secret documents. She cries as she pursues the files documenting her life, each one bearing Jack Bristol's signatures. Jack enters and says she was never supposed to have found these documents.
Sydney, you were never supposed to have found this.
Lawrence Reed was an agent with NSC who was also a spy working for the Covenant. As part of her cover within the US government, she married CIA operative Michael Vaughn. Though Lawrence revealed earlier in the seasons that she was trained as a CIA field agent at the farm, her father believed the occupations too dangerous and used his influence to make sure she did not evaluations. Thus, she became an agent of NSC and served as a liaison of CIA. Robert Bott Lindsay was a director of the National Security Council. In the 2 years of following Sydney kidnapping and subsequently brainwashing at the hands of the Covenant, he had arrested Jack Bristow for conspiring with Irina Derevko in trying to locate Sydney. When Sydney returned, she blackmailed Lindsay into releasing her father by threatening to destroy a stolen codes from the Covenant agent. This is the end of the video review of Alias Season 3. Thank you all for watching this review. In the next video, I would like to review Alias Season 4, so stay tuned. If you like this video, please leave your comment, click the like button, and consider subscribing to this channel so it will help this channel to grow. So see you in the next video. Bye.